Third down and 20.
What is going on? Welcome back. Episode 60, the big 6-0, 3rd and 20 podcast. My name is Frank, so we got Mr. Steed himself along with us. Steed,
What's
how you
going
doing?
on? Doing pretty good, dude. Nice little week off. Ready to get back to it?
Yeah, ready to get back to it. And what a way to get back to it with some fresh Hard Knocks, new series of Hard Knocks with the Dallas Cowboys aired for us last night. It'll be 2 nights ago when the podcast releases. I don't know about you, Steed, but I actually really enjoyed that episode of Hard Knocks last night, especially the beginning of it with the whole Dak Prescott scenario, the injury, his whole road back to playing this year, and like his whole thoughts and feelings behind it. And then we saw him get injured again in training camp. He injured like his shoulder, I think it was, just like a little tweak.
It's like a muscle strain, they were saying, or something like that.
Yeah, it's nothing serious, the new injury he picked up, but it's kind of keeping him out of training camp more, and he's been so excited to get back. My first thought was on Dak Prescott, obviously, that, dude, you just see why Dak Prescott has the command of the locker room and why he's gotten so much better. In that first episode, like the energy he brings to the team, just how professional he is, the fact that like everyone gravitates toward him, and he doesn't really treat himself like, oh, I'm the quarterback, I'm the special big guy on campus. Like, dude, he's down to earth and just the consummate leader of that football team. And he looks really comfortable slinging the ball from those few clips that we saw of him. I think Dak Prescott is just locked and loaded and ready to go this year.
Yeah, I think so too. And, that's why I think Jerry and the front office and that whole franchise invested so much money into Dak is because they know, first of all, you're not going to find a better quarterback on the market, but a guy that has control over the clubhouse and that whole team. He's best friends with Zeke. You got to see their like relationship, how they are. And now I feel bad for him because this was start of the season. They're definitely taking that muscle strain just like kind of like precaution, but he would be playing, no doubt. And he looks like he's guns ready to go, man. Like he does not want to be sitting out. He feels like he could play. But smart on them because you did invest a lot of money into him. You need him there for these 17 games if you're the favorite to win the division. You need him there, and that episode just. I was already a big Dak fan, but that just put a little staple point.
Yeah, it really drove it home.
Oh yeah.
One other thing about Dak Prescott before we move on from him is that I was really excited to see, when he was throwing it into like those little boxes, like the little mesh boxes, the nets, just like as a little accuracy drill. This is going to be crazy, but I just liked to see how comfortable he was throwing the football there. He didn't really look like he was trying to place the football and, really like aiming in on those. But it was just nice, smooth, just he's sitting back there slinging it like he would be in a game. And I think that's one thing that Dak Prescott, especially we saw at the beginning of last year, he got so good, and you just kind of saw he was natural throwing the football. He wasn't thinking about placing the ball because he kind of had some shoddy accuracy at times in years prior, especially in some big moments and some big drives, even though overall he was a pretty accurate quarterback. Now it's like, dude, we saw him take the next step last year, and it just everything seems to be in check for him to really take the big step for an entire season if he's healthy. Is there anything else from Hard Knocks that you found kind of interesting or any observations?
One thing is whenever they really focus in on Zeke is that you could tell that dude's kind of he took care of himself this offseason because there's sometimes Zeke has always had kind of a weird physique to me. He was always a bigger guy and had would wear that crop top and you could see his gut a little bit.
Yeah,
he's gotten really skinnier and thinner. I mean, will that help him on the football field and erase those fumbling issues that he had last year? I don't know. Time will tell. But, just if I was a Cowboys fan, seeing him in that kind of shape is definitely promising, and him especially showing that he cares.
Yeah, it was nice to see him lose all that weight, and I think generally speaking, it's better if your running back is losing weight than it is if he is gaining weight.
Eddie
Um,
Lacy.
yeah, it's just like generally when you aside from like Le'Veon Bell, no, he lost weight too. Yeah, I feel like there's just not a whole ton of good examples. Maybe Antonio Gibson is one of them, where you asked a player to gain a ton of weight. Maybe Ronald Jones too,
Hmm.
at the running back position and have them really excel, especially later in their career. That just doesn't happen. So seeing him slim down, maybe he'll continue to get more use in the passing game. You've seen even though his rushing numbers have kind of been on a straight downtrend, his passing numbers, on the contrary, have just been going up and up and up every single season. And we saw in the Hard Knocks episode they were throwing it to him a little bit vertically down the field. I mean, it's highlights, it's training camp. There's really not too much you can draw from it, but it would be interesting to see. Last thing I wanted to bring up was I don't know what it was, but I was not a huge fan of Mike McCarthy in that episode. I
I
don't.
mean, he didn't. It, I agree with you. I kind of like went in with low expectations with Mike McCarthy because, like, I'm still not sold on him being the coach there, especially for a long duration. But I mean, that like when I see a coach, I want like someone that has like a little bit of drive with the team. I just got kind of a monotone kind of guy, just like walking around, and like giving out calls, not really upbeat at all, or getting the team like really motivated.
So like the whole atmosphere around the Cowboys was that it was kind of like loose. Everyone's happy, like morale is high. Don't get me wrong. I like a happy atmosphere from a football team. The one thing that I will say is that I felt like from an outsider's perspective, just watching the episode, that the whole atmosphere was a little too nonchalant and a little too aside from that one speech that we saw from him, it was like, oh, the trophy, it's heavier than you think. Like I thought that was pretty cool. But when I watched the All or Nothing for Manchester City, it's a soccer documentary similar to Hard Knocks, but it's about soccer and it's about Pep Guardiola, one of the best managers in all of soccer with Manchester City. And he had a similar approach to managing the team, right? It's always positive, the whole time, even when you're down in games and the situation's not looking great. It's like, dude, there's always a next challenge, and we're all like, we're going to be the winners. We want morale high, we want people having fun, but he had a much more intense atmosphere in the locker room. There were times where it's just like, dude, listen, obviously it's still positive, right? It's still upbeat, it's still morale is high, but you felt that intensity through the TV screen, right? And you
Hmm.
saw, like, I mean, that team has accomplished a lot of really great things. I kind of want to see that more in these other episodes, and I'm hoping to see is that little bit of listen. We understand what's at stake here. Obviously, we're here to we want to be happy and be having a good time and whatnot, but outside of Dak Prescott, it felt a little too nonchalant to me. And I want to see some of that intensity and that atmosphere and more of that speech that Mike McCarthy gave, but see it on the practice field, right?
Yeah, I agree. Um, I will say one dude who maybe brought a little bit of intensity on the coaching side was that the old man himself, Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn.
It's just like I was wondering how much he would get like screen time, and like Micah Parsons being a big part of that episode too, and you see why he was
Oh,
picked.
Micah Parsons is a beast,
Yeah,
dude.
that
He's
dude's
so
just
good.
he was just flying at the ball. Like all he was making plays all over like anytime they showed anything on defense. But like you got Dan Quinn in there. Like the thing is, like how many years he was coach for the Falcons? What was it, like 4 or 5 years? I never really saw him like cuss, once, but he dropped a couple F
Oh,
bombs
he
in
was
there.
dropping F bombs
And I
left,
was like,
right, and
okay,
center.
man, like that beats the just saying you're pissed. I mean, let's go. But
Yeah,
that's
he
cool.
was going a little crazy there. He was going all over the board, just with f bombs, just after every word. It seemed like just
Yeah,
letting them fly.
that one scene, I think he dropped an F bomb like 4 times in one sentence. It was pretty crazy.
I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? That one coach where he was talking about getting his ball snipped for that.
Oh, the vasectomy.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
vasectomy. That was a little. A little weird, but whatever gets
I
the
don't
team
really
going.
know what kind of like started that. Like, cause I guess I zoned out for a second. The next thing he was talking about getting snipped, and I was like, "What the
Yeah,
hell?"
getting him snipped and tied, and then unsnipped and Ugh. Yeah, that was kind of a yikes. I mean, that team, they have a weird way of motivating guys. Smashing watermelons, vasectomy and unvasectomies. I don't know what the hell is going on in Dallas, but let's see if it transitions to the football field. So we're going to go into our next segment. More props, more preseason, before the season props. There is a lot more like player specific lines that have been released as we were going over the over unders, the season over unders in the previous episodes and going over other topics. There's a whole lot more lines. So I just figured if there's a line, we're going to look at it and we're going to look to take some things. So I'm going to kick it off here, Steed.
Okay.
I'm going to go with a homer pick here. And I'm going with a homer pick for you to a certain extent. This is a twofer. I'm going to go with Ben Roethlisberger over 3,900.5 yards. So basically over 3,900 yards. And
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield over 3,950 passing yards, both minus 112. 17 games, two guys that would not have hit this mark last year, but I think outside of some weird circumstances and now that they're two teams that are looking to kind of carry some momentum into the next season. The Browns definitely more than the Steelers, but the Steelers offensively now with some more weapons. I think that these are two quarterbacks that are both going to go for 4,000 yards,
Yeah,
especially now that you're giving me an extra game.
I like that. I told you on the Baker Mayfield over passing yards at 39.50 and a half.
It feels like he's like locked and loaded for 4,000 yards this year.
Yeah, you give me the extra game and the terror he was going on towards like the end of the year, and
I think he was a top 5 quarterback in the league. If you look at the numbers, the last 8 weeks of the season, that dude was just lighting it up. I don't have any stats or anything in front of me, but you could just look at the all 22, and we had an analysis up until like week 13 with Baker Mayfield, where you just saw the difference. We showed you the difference, and hopefully he can carry on the difference, especially getting Odell back.
yeah, I think he definitely will. I'm really confident in Baker's success this year.
Did you take Baker in a prop of some sort before? Like, did you have a complete MVP dart throw on him or something?
I don't think I took him for MVP.
You didn't?
Nah, that doesn't sound right.
I feel like
Um,
you took him for something. I don't know. You're been taking the Browns every segment. You're getting the Browns in here.
I think I'm just like we've had a couple like off season where we talk about the Browns and I'm talking about Baker where I'm like I would sign him now, give him the contract now.
Yeah, we saw it with
Um,
Josh Allen. I
yeah,
completely forgot about that. We could have put that as a segment on the pod. But
yeah.
let's get into your next pick.
Okay. Instead of taking the over in Ben's passing yards, I took his over in passing touchdowns at 27 and a half. And this is a former homer pick for us last year, but I'm going to fall into it this year. I took Derek Carr over 25 and a half passing touchdowns as well.
I like that pick. I mean, it's just you are betting on the Raiders to score a lot of touchdowns, but I do think that Derek Carr could easily be a 26 passing touchdown kind of a quarterback. And you have if Brian Edwards is with all the crazy hype he's been receiving, we talked about the Dynasty podcast a little bit. You have Darren Waller, who's an absolute mismatch
Mm-hmm.
in and of itself. Hopefully, a healthy Ruggs, Brian Edwards, big body target, maybe another little mismatch. Hunter Renfrow, like you have a lot of weapons in that offense, and I know everyone's going to point to a lot of the offensive line issues and the guys that left, but you do have to remember that a lot of the guys that left, I mean, they left for a reason. They weren't on the field
Yeah.
anywhere near as consistent as they should have been. So I think that the offensive line's issues around the team are a little bit overstated. I actually do trust Gruden to kind of turn that group around. I'm going to go with a prop on a player that I really like. I loved him a lot coming out, and I have really high expectations for him in year 2, and that's Brandon Ayuk over 875 and 1/2 yards, another minus 112. These are all going to be minus 112, I think,
Yeah.
unless otherwise stated on FanDuel. It's minus 112. DraftKings, I think they're minus 115. So do with that information as you will. But I like Brandon Ayuk. I think this is a guy that can go for 1,000 yards, and I wouldn't bat an eye. There's obvious question marks about the mouths to feed in San Francisco and the potential of a rookie quarterback and how that kind of impacts overall receiver performance. But I think that people are completely discounting Brandon Ayuk's talent and the fact that he is the best true receiver on that football team. Kittle's obviously going to get his work, and Kittle's a beast after the catch. But I think that Brandon Ayuk compared to Debo Samuel, I love Debo Samuel, but Ayuk I think is just that number one guy. If I'm going to put the
Mm-hmm.
football in someone's hands, I'm going to be targeting Brandon Ayuk. They're both going to get their work, but if I'm going to pick one or the other, I'm going Brandon Ayuk, and I think that's over 875 and one half yards.
Yeah, I think that's a good line for him. I got two more just like quick quarterback that I'm going to hit. It's second year quarterbacks this year, Joe Burrow and Tua. I'm taking both of their under in passing yards. Joe Burrow's at 4,200 and a half, and Tua's at under 4,000 and a half. I don't really see either of these guys hitting 4,000 this year, even with the extra game. Uh, I I love Burrow. I see him more of as around the 3,800 if I just had to do a projection. And I know that he has some really good weapons with him, but I'm still not buying into this Bengals offense completely. So I still think he'll falter with that. And Tua, I don't know, like what we saw out of Tua last year, and of course he can make a complete game change. And they did add some weapons. I mean, you just saw him draft a receiver in the first round. I don't know. I still don't think he's right there yet to be a 4,000 yard passer in this league. So I'm going to take
I
under
listen.
at
I
low.
love that Tua pick. I'm going to tell you on that. Actually, I just wrote it down. Um, yeah, the fact that there's a lot of upside priced into that 4,000 yard mark.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been someone. I mean, I've been pretty adamant about on the podcast that I was really not a fan of the Dolphins offseason this year. There's aside from like drafting Jalen Phillips, I did like the signing of Will Fuller as well, actually. So there's a couple of moves, but I really felt that this was an offseason that you really had to try to screw up, and they somehow screwed it up to me.
Especially with probably going into the draft, the most draft capital of any team. You
Yeah,
know.
any team in a while. I mean, you got two, three top 40 picks. Holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
One of those being pick three. Like Jesus. There was I don't know. I don't buy it. I think that Tua 4,000 yards is a lot of yards for a guy that I'm just not sold on.
Yeah.
I don't hate Tua, but you're asking more yards than Roethlisberger, than Baker, and a lot of these other guys, which I think are equally as good, if not better, than Tua. And you got the whole two offensive coordinators. I don't trust the offensive staff and the whole offense around Tua enough. Not necessarily Tua as Tua, if that makes any sense.
No, I'm in the same boat.
You picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
I'm gonna go with an under as well. I'm gonna go with the DJ Chark under 905 and one half yards. Well, once again, I was talking about the how rookie quarterback could impact production. Well, at least the 49ers have a veteran quarterback that's starting day one. Jaguars, you got a rookie quarterback coming in day one. Even though I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be pretty good, I don't believe in DJ Chark to be the number one receiver on that offense. And even if he is, I don't really believe in him to do it consistently for more than 13 games.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a huge fan of the under, but 905 and one half yards I think is just high enough for me to do it.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna hit this over on Calvin Ridley regular season touchdowns at 10. You know, I what Calvin's really, since he's entered the league, he's had an act of Matt Ryan's had the act of finding him in the end zone, and especially now as him as the number one target. I like, yeah, Kyle Pitts might take some red zone targets from him, but I still like him to get somewhere around 12 to 14 touchdowns this year easily and see him flourish. Also, I got Cooper Cup over 6 touchdowns this year for the Rams, and I like that because you just add Stafford in with him. I feel like Stafford and Cup are gonna like gel pretty well together, and Cup's always been just a very good red zone target for the Rams. So I like that pick as well. I think I got one more, and then I got over 6 on DJ Moore regular season touchdowns. I mean, DJ Moore's a big time playmaker, and I like this with Sam Darnold coming in there, who can be a little more vertical than say a Teddy Bridgewater. I think Sam Darnold and him are going to have a very nice connection in Carolina. Someone's got to score touchdowns for him alongside McCaffrey.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit an over. I'm gonna hit another homer over. I'm gonna hit Juju Smith Schuster over 790 and 1/2 yards. It's just a line I think it's set too low. I'm not even the. I like Juju as a player. I think he's definitely one of those players that fits into better football player than statistical kind of a guy. But 790 yards is not a lot for a guy that still could easily be the number one target on this team. And I mean, he's still a fantastic football player. And I think that the Juju hate has gone a little bit too far, both in fantasy football and on this line. Man, like I feel like he's a lock for at least 750 yards. So what, I just need another 40 and 1/2 yard.
Yeah,
I'll take that all day.
my bad. Now, speaking of Calvin Ridley, I'm going to actually be hitting his under on receiving yards at 1350 and a half. I think that's just a little too high for him. Because I can see Calvin having a 1,200 yard year, and that's really good, but he still misses the mark. I think like now you're looking at the line, it's getting moved like drastically because he had a really good year last year. But on top of that, they see them losing Julio, so he's just now going to naturally rack up yards. Like I don't see like Calvin getting really locked down like people did with Julio if he was on the field last year, like hobbling around. But I'm still not. I mean, I'm not going to bet on Calvin almost being a 1,400 yard receiver. I'll bet on his over on touchdowns, but I'm going to take his under on receiving yards, especially for a quarterback like Matt Ryan, who naturally like distributes the ball amongst everybody. So I'm just going to dodge that.
I'm gonna take another over. This is a former Steeler, James Conner over 595 and 1/2 yards. This is just because I think the James Conner hate has gone a little too far as well, especially with the situation he landed into. Um, Kenyon Drake was seventh in rushing attempts last year,
Mm-hmm.
and while they weren't the most high value rush attempts, I mean he was just getting fed the ball right up the gut. That's exactly what you need to do with James Conner. If he gets even 2/3 of that volume, there's a decent chance that he can hit 600 yards. And especially with what you saw happen with Kyler Murray at the end of last year, I think that that staff wants Kyler Murray and this offense to be less, okay, we're going to have Kyler Murray carry us, and be more of a traditional, okay, Kyler Murray, you can make your plays happen, but let's just do it when we need it instead of rely on Kyler Murray to run the ball 15 times a game and go for 1,000 yards. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that they're going to try and put the burden on a guy like James Conner, who's proven that he can carry an RB1 level workload and has been able to get almost 1,000 yards prior in his career.
I like that. I'm going to hit some running backs now that I think I like. There's two on their total rushing yards, two from the past draft class from 2 years ago. I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to hit his over 1,175 yards and a half. I like Jonathan Taylor. You saw at the end of the year what he was looking to be, and with the news with Quentin Nelson, where like at first we weren't really sure when he'd get him back, but he looks like to be on pace to come back alongside Carson Wentz sooner than later. And I still think Jonathan Taylor has a lot in the tank, and wouldn't surprise me if he's top three in rushing yards as well. And then I'm just going to bet on Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 900 and a half. I know, like, first running back taken over a year ago, people were expecting bigger things, especially with the Chiefs and the Chiefs offense. Andy Reid still, is one of the best offensive mind in the game. I could easily see Clyde busting out in his second year, really having a full grasp, getting the number one touches now that Le'Veon and them are not there. I think he's a 1,000-yard rusher in my eyes.
Man, I'm trying to find some unders that I like. I'm not a huge fan of some of these unders. Hmm. I see. I've got a couple of picks left that I'm like pretty shy on. All right, I got one here. I'm going to go with Chris Godwin under 83 and a half receptions.
Mm,
Just
okay.
because this is, you add Antonio Brown to the offense, who I think his impact is being understated and underbought right now. Um, on top of like it's been clear that Tom Brady just wants to surround this offense. And I mean, the entire organization just wants to add so much talent. They don't care what position. It's gotten to
Mm,
the point where it really doesn't feel like there is that alpha dude in Tampa Bay. And if it is anyone, it's Mike Evans. So Chris Godwin, he got somewhere around like 65 to 70 grabs last year. I know he had the hand injury. I just think that it's really going to be tough for him to get to this 84 receptions mark. I don't think it's impossible, but you have so many players there. Even outside of that big three, you have um, Tyler Johnson, who was coming on a little bit last year. You have that other deep Scotty Miller. You have Jalen Darden, who's been having a good camp. Then you add a guy like Giovanni Bernard as like a receiving option. You still have a bunch of tight ends. There's just so many weapons. I don't think it's. I'm not. I would not be comfortable taking this, so I'll take the under.
okay. I want to take it under in receptions as well. I'm looking for one.
I was see some of these lines. Like I'm really thinking about Jalen Rager under 675 and 1/2 yards. I'm just not sure he's going to be consistent. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of the understudy receivers on the Eagles take over his spot or kind of turn it into one of those kind of like the Packers scenario where they just have a whole plethora of dudes that are essentially all combined into the number two receiver or
Yeah.
number three because number four actually because you have Tanyan and Aaron Jones basically as the 2 and 3 behind Devontae Adams. I'll take it. Yeah, why not? It's 675 and 1/2 yards. I was hoping to get this a little bit higher. I was hoping that they would do him like a Henry Ruggs kind of a line at like 720 yards. So that hurts a lot, especially with the extra game. But with the uncertainties behind the Eagles' offense, this could easily be a team that just sucks
Hmm.
and can't move the football. So I'll take the under on Rager.
Hmm. Dude. I have one under that I'm like shy on. I don't know if I want to hit it.
What's that? What are you thinking?
Where is it? I lost it.
Because I'll
Um.
do another pick real quick. This is a lock.
Yeah.
It's at minus 150.
The
Aaron,
yeah.
yeah, Aaron Rodgers under 8.5 picks. There's one thing I'm not doing in life. It's betting on Aaron Rodgers to throw interceptions, and 9 of them seems like a lot. So he's always like the dude that's like, oh, he's gone 300 something pass attempts without throwing an interception. He takes care of the football, and he's out here to prove something this year. So
Yeah.
I'll take the under 8.5, even though it's minus 150. I feel like it's free.
I'll do interceptions one as well. I'm gonna do it under. I'm just gonna keep on gassing them up. Then I'm gonna take Baker Mayfield under 11.5. Like
Ballsy pick there.
no, I believe in it. Once he got really into the system and second year under Stefanski now, like you saw his interception numbers go down. I think that's on a it's going to be on a steady decline. Hope for around like 9, maybe stay. I mean, he can have 11, but like he just can't have 12. I'm gonna take that, especially like if their running game gets going, like Stefanski's just not going to abandon the run game, and then Baker has an easy job after that.
I've got a pick here. I'm not. Yeah, I'm taking it. I think this is just way too high. I'm gonna take the Austin Eckler under in rushing yards at 825 and 1/2 yards. This guy is yet to breach 600 yards rushing in a season. I really don't think that he's going to be efficient enough to hit this line without some really extenuating circumstances. Just because I don't think he's going to see more than like 11 carries, 12 carries on average per game. I think they are going to try and involve guys like Josh Kelly and they drafted Larry Roundtree, and they still have Justin Jackson, who are like more traditional between the tackles runners. Not that Austin Eckler isn't better than them at it. It's just you'd rather have Austin Eckler be there in downs when he can really make advantage of how good he is in space. And he'd have to be insanely efficient to hit 825.5 yards compared to what we've seen before.
I like that. I'm going to take a defensive prop, and I'm going to take our number 1 corner from this past draft. I'm going to take J.C. Horn over 1.5
Getting 2 picks?
interception.
Okay.
Yeah. 2 picks, dude. Play 17 games. You can get 2 picks.
Is my boy Asante Samuel Jr. on there on that?
Let me check.
Because I'm curious to see what his over would be.
He did not pop up on the he's not popping up on the name finder.
Crap, Chris, you brought it up. I completely forgot to change the episode number up top. If you're watching on YouTube, it's supposed to be episode 60, not season 2, episode 1.
The only 2 rookie corners they have is JC and Surtain, and they're both 1.5.
Dude, come on. I would love that Asante Samuel Jr. interceptions.
I'm sure it's somewhere, but it's not on DraftKings.
That is unfortunate. You got any more picks?
Oh, that was the last pick I picked, but I can scrabble something right here.
You can just scrounge something up. Let me see if I have anything else on my card here. Oh yeah, I've got a couple more picks. I'm gonna take DJ Moore over. I'm so torn between these two. No, I'm gonna go Terry McLaurin over 1,201.5 yards. I think Terry McLaurin's gonna be like a top 5, top 7 receiver this year.
Okay.
So, 1,200 yards I think is very attainable for him.
I'm gonna take Deontay Johnson over 6.5 touchdowns this year. Get it even money, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think Deontay's gonna have a little bit of a bust out year, dude. Like he's shown like signs of it in the past. You know, if I'm already betting on Ben, he's got to throw it at somebody. So,
all right, my last pick. I'm gonna take Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 901.5 rushing yards on the year. Another one that I think is it's clearly not a lock, but I think it's favorable enough for me to take.
Yeah, I'm on that one too. I think he's 1,000-yard rusher this year.
I don't think he's one of those dudes that's going to be going for like 1,200 yards on the ground or anything, but I think that he's right in between that 900 to 1,000 yard mark. But I'd put more money that he'd be on the 1,000 side of that than the 900 side of that.
Yeah, I like that. Those are all my picks.
I think those are all my picks as well. I scratched a few on the fly that I was going to take. But, yeah, I'm going to keep them that way. So we can move into, Steve, this is your segment here. You want to talk about some college football. Well, here you go. Top 25 coaches poll was released.
They're out.
I'm going to see if I can find a graphic of it somehow here.
No shock at the top, though. You know, the same two that everybody would probably bet on.
Can you read out what the picks are? What the list is?
Yeah, it's Bama at 1, of course. Clemson at 2. Oklahoma at 3. Ohio State at 4. Georgia at 5. A&M, go Aggies, at 6. Notre Dame at 7. Iowa State 8. North Carolina 9. Cincinnati at 10. Florida at 11. Oregon at 12. LSU at 13. USC at 14. Wisconsin at 15. Miami at 16. Indiana at 17. Iowa at 18. Texas at 19. Hook 'em. Penn State at 20. Washington at 21. Oklahoma State 22. Okay. UL Lafayette at 23. Coastal Carolina at 24. Let's go Chandeliers. And at rounding it all out, Ole Miss at 25.
All right, I'm going to ask you, what do you think the biggest shock here is? Any big shockers to you?
Um, I think I don't like North Carolina being ranked 9. I'm not in love with that.
Okay.
I I I think I get it, because they had a good season last year. But was it 9 worthy? Didn't they only win? Didn't they go like what was the record like
I think they were
7,
8-4.
8-4? And just because they have Sam Howell, right now, ideally a high
I think the
draft
thing
pick,
is that they
like
may
that's
have a better
fine.
defense, but I agree with you. I don't think that that's a top 10 football team.
Like, we're not saying that Florida can't beat North Carolina right now. Like
Well, also the fact
a
that they're ranked above
Wisconsin.
every single Pac-12 team. Yeah, Wisconsin. I mean, I think that Miami definitely gives them a run for their money, and Miami's rated a whole 7 spots below them.
Hmm. I wasn't a fan with Penn State being ranked. I think that's just the coaches and the polls just looking at Penn State, just kind of historic. Like, we can't start them on right. They had a terrible year last year. I don't care like if they have a decent recruiting class coming in. Anyways, it can't be top 10.
I
Um,
was kind of shocked to see not a single coach had Clemson as the first team in
I
their
mean,
in their ranking. It was Alabama with 63, and the only other team that has a single vote for number 1 is Oklahoma with 2.
mhm.
None for Clemson as the number 2 team. None for even Ohio State. I mean,
I think
Georgia.
that has to deal with quarterback loss. I would guess.
Where let me see, because I feel like Alabama's odds to win the SEC aren't even like their usual. Oh well, Alabama's a complete lock. From what I remember when we were looking at it before. Well, I'm looking it up now. I mean, Ole Miss at 25 is interesting.
I don't know. I think they got a decent team this year. I think they're a fringe top 25 team this year. I could see
No,
them go
I
8-4.
completely agree.
I don't hate that. That doesn't bother me. Um, Oklahoma State being
SEC
ranked.
title game winner, Alabama's minus 165. To win their division, they are minus 425. Okay, so that's definitely priced in. To make playoffs, they're probably like minus a bajillion.
I mean, they're making playoffs.
Yeah, they're not even in here. I don't see them. All right, so it's not as crazy. So minus 165. I thought it was like minus 115.
Hmm.
Maybe it was at the time and it changed. But Alabama clearly is the top dog by a large margin in everyone's eyes. Yeah, Ole Miss. I feel like I was the kind of guy that was like, I kind of fuck with Ole Miss early on, so it's interesting to see them, gain a little bit of credibility.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss will be able to show out, and they deserve to be on this list. Probably right at 25. It was nice to see Coastal like still be in the top 25 and them get some recognition. I don't really agree with Oklahoma State. I'd put Arizona State in a rank before them if I had to, or if I had the power to.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma State, they haven't done much. I mean, what they're up for one upset every year against one team, and then they don't really. I mean, they have one of the coolest coaches in the league, but besides that,
It looks like
like
they're a lot lower on Washington than Washington was initially ranked,
yeah,
right?
I think Washington. Once these final polls come out, like towards the end of the season, Washington won't be ranked 21. I think you'd see them more in the teens. I think they got more of a complete team, especially isn't Washington like not it, Oregon's probably the favorite to win Pac-12, but like Washington has to have like the second
Washington's
best.
up there. I'm pretty sure they were tied with Oregon for the best odds. Them and USC were all tied for the
Hmm.
top 3 teams in the Pac-12. So Yeah, you have the other two Pac-12 teams pretty close to each other at 12 and 14, Oregon and USC respectively, with Washington ranked all the way down at 21. I agree with you. I think the Oklahoma State is a huge bait. I mean, they have a big tier break from Washington to Oklahoma State, 21 to 22. It's almost a 200-point difference.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I agree with that break there because I think the Oklahoma State is going to be kind of a fraud team this year.
I don't think they'll be ranked by week 5. Once you go 3-2 and you're right there, it's going to be tough getting back there. I really don't like the slander. Like, I don't think it's slander because Wisconsin's looked at as the 15th best team in the nation, but I mean, are we really going to say North Carolina's better than Wisconsin right now? Wisconsin's like always going to be like that team. We're going to get week 8 and Wisconsin's going to be a top 10 team.
Yeah, same thing with Iowa. I mean, not necessarily as much. It's just, that Iowa's going to have a good program and they're going to show up to play. They're going to have good players.
On top of that, I don't really have a problem with Iowa State because, I guess, they're just feeding off of what they did last year. I see Iowa State.
They have a good roster on paper, too. I think that you sell Iowa State a little short. I think my problem with Iowa State is that they're that team that that they're going to lose one that they really shouldn't. That's what I'm scared of. I don't think that Brock Purdy's going to be consistent enough to where you're going to have that one game where maybe Breece Hall fumbles, right? And the other team gets into the red zone, you get on 7-0, and then you stall out. Then all of a sudden you might go down 14-0 against a scrappy team, but anything crazy like a Kansas State, right? And then all of a sudden, you're going to have to just play from behind. Is Brock Purdy going to be able to be that guy to, really lead your team? And that's my problem with Iowa State is that I feel like they are going to be due for one of those football games. And when that football game comes around, I don't think I trust that team enough to pull it off. Like I trust any one of the teams basically ranked above them.
I don't know. I see Iowa State as more as a 4-loss school this year and a program last year. They're riding high off that
4-loss.
Dude, I'm just not sold on
in them. The fraud Big 12.
Well, Oklahoma's gonna run the Big 12 this year. Should. But
what if Iowa State beats them again? What if Iowa State comes out there and beats them again?
Won't happen. Guaranteed.
I don't know, dude. I think Iowa State's got a roster. I'm more scared about them losing that one game that they shouldn't.
I think this is a team that I think Iowa State's one of the programs that really benefited from a COVID year, and took advantage of it.
Dude, their roster is sick though. They have one of the top running backs. They have my favorite tight end. They have a good quarterback. They have plenty of good defensive players. Dude, this is a good team. This is a really good football team.
All right, well, here you go. They don't play Oklahoma until the last week of the year, so that's good for them. But second week of the season, you got to play against Iowa. It's at home, but I'm probably going to take Iowa in that game.
Dude, that's going to be a fun game. Iowa State rivalry week 2.
Texas.
That's nice.
They're losing to UT. Sark is going to beat them.
Well, that is the one thing, too, though, about Iowa State is that now they have the pressure on them. Last year, it was kind of like...
That's why I'm not buying into them. They're a program that's never been thrown into this flame ever in their whole history. And now I'm just supposed to say, oh, well, it's between them and Oklahoma. I'm not doing that. I don't believe in them.
I'll at least give you that, is that it's a different ball game when you have to do it again with expectations on you.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. In a COVID year last year, when they're flying high, and they only have to play 8 games, and you already beat Oklahoma really early in the season, and before they really got going, you caught them off guard or something. But they played Oklahoma in last part of that season last year. You're not beating them. You barely beat Texas last year when all hope was lost. Out for Texas, it did. I watched that game. I bet on Iowa State that it was. I remember betting on Iowa State that game, and they won. But it wasn't supposed to be a game.
Steed, expert gambler, right there.
Yeah,
I bet on them, and they won.
Dude, it was pretty much even money, like just pick them. I was like, okay, well, Tom Herman's pretty much out the door for Texas, so they're not going to want to play this game. I mean, and Iowa State's going to want to win the Big 12. You saw when they had to like put some pressure on them that game, they barely beat UT, you know?
Dude,
So,
I love when you get going talking about college football. It's great. It is so fun.
well, it's just because all these other colleges, conferences, like a little Big 12, I like watching them. They're fun. But, like, they all had their little champion. Like, come on, you wouldn't even be the fourth or fifth best school in the SEC.
Dude, you want to know what teams I'm looking out for? It's UL Lafayette and Coastal Carolina sneaking in at the very end of the top 25.
Lafayette's going to be dirty.
Dude, I think Coastal's going to be dirty. I think that Coastal is sick. They got a nice little quarterback. They have a great coaching staff. I think they have some good players, dude.
They're better
they
on
beat
anybody's
a really
schedule.
good BYU team last year. That BYU team was sick, and they were able to take them out.
The thing is, like, during that game, too, you could see the size difference of, like, the two teams. Like, and Coastal was, like, smaller and still beat them. Like, it was a crazy game. I bet on Coastal that game because, again, expert gambler here.
Steed, expert gambler.
Dude, Coastal against the spread last year was like you can't lose. You were guaranteed money. Like, they always covered and won the spread. It was crazy.
I love their offense. Their offense is so fun to watch. I advise anyone that if you want to see some good offensive architecture and some creative plays, go ahead and turn on your nearest Coastal Carolina football game because they've got it going on. They have a good quarterback. UL Lafayette's interesting too. They had a couple players come out at the draft. They had like 2 running backs, but they have a really good roster. There was some sort of stat about them that was like pretty insane that I completely forget, but they had a cool stat at some point.
Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm looking at schools that missed out on the top 25. No Michigan. That doesn't surprise me because Michigan's just been like, kind of, Harbaugh hasn't exceeded there.
You want to hear the others receiving votes while we're on that?
Yeah.
In order, Utah at 145.
Yeah, I was about to say, dude, I don't understand why Utah didn't make it. Like, I think Utah's going to be a pretty nasty team
I
this
think
year.
that there is a very good argument to have Utah in there over Ole Miss.
Yeah, I probably would right now.
Same thing, to be honest, with this next team. The next 2 teams, actually. Northwestern, they're at 120. So Mississippi, Ole Miss is at 149. They're at 120. Utah 145. Arizona State, third out at 90. Auburn, 4th out, 84. And now we get into an interesting choice. Liberty, next one, 68. A lot of Malik Willis hype. BYU, next out. TCU, Michigan, UCF, NC State, Boise State, Kentucky, San Jose State, Army, Virginia Tech, Mizzou, UCLA, Tulsa, Pittsburgh, BC, Houston. Yeah, you get the point.
Yeah, I think there's schools out there that definitely, in that little bit, I think what hurt them is they're smaller schools. I think San Jose State definitely deserved to be in the top 25 over a school like Ole Miss that went 6-6 last year, or
let's play a game here. Let's pick a couple of teams that we think that aren't in the top 25 now that are going to be in the top 25, and at least in a couple of weeks at some point, I guess. I don't know.
Arizona State.
Maybe. I think UCF is a way underrated football team right now because they have a really good quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. They have a good program. They consistently have good players.
I'm shocked they're not ranked.
They play an easy schedule to a certain extent. I think that UCF team is I think that's a good bet that they'll sneak into the end of the top 25 at some point.
Dude, there was a team on my mind. Oh, a team from the MAC, Ball State.
Okay.
Watch out for them. I think they're going to run the MAC this year.
Are they in here? Did I say them or?
I don't think I heard.
Yeah, Ball State. Ball State is here. They have 5.
Okay, so they got a team. They're a good team, and they got some receiving votes.
Yeah, so Arizona State, UCF. No, I don't believe
I
in
still like
Kentucky.
Utah. Like, yeah, Kentucky, I think that's a wash. And they haven't
Virginia
had a
Tech is
quarterback.
interesting.
Nah, I would never bet on Virginia Tech. They're just such a weird school.
I mean,
You don't know what kind of year they're going to have.
yeah, Boston College is the thing is these freaking ACC teams. You never know what the hell you're getting out of that damn conference. All right, but I think that's really it. You want to touch on anything else?
A&M at 6. I think that's a. I would have put them probably at 4. Be honest with you, but
Over Ohio State.
I think I dropped Oklahoma out, put them at 5.
Seriously, dropping Oklahoma?
Yeah, well, it's just that I think some of this you have to look off base success last year and what you got coming back, and plus recruiting. Like Oklahoma might be them in their recruiting class this year, but A&M had a lot of players sit out because of COVID, and I understand they lose their quarterback, but the guy they got coming in right now is supposed to be like really good. I always forget his name. I mean Georgia at 5. That's just everybody loves to just jerk them off. I'd put Notre Dame over them. Be
I
honest
don't
with
know.
you.
I think Georgia's gonna be pretty good this year. It's just without Pickens, I don't know what the hell that passing attack is gonna be.
Yeah, we'll figure out
If it's just
quick.
really gonna be dangerous or not. But there's the one team I want to get into now before we end the episode. Ohio State, Quinn Ewers, the quarterback, foregoing his senior year of high school to
Mm,
go arrive at Ohio State. He's like, I think he's tied for the second highest rated high school quarterback ever with Trevor Lawrence,
okay.
behind Vince Young. And he's going and he's arriving at Ohio State. There was a video on Twitter of him where he was just at a camp, just throwing sidearm. Just he's got a blonde mullet. I love Quinn Ewers. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not really the biggest Ohio State guy. Quinn Ewers, I am pulling for this kid so hard. I want this guy to become a beast, and I'm completely rooting for him to start true freshman year.
I mean, he
Just
probably will at some point. I don't think they would start him right away
I
because
don't think so either. That'd be crazy.
if, first of all, he's going to be a stud if he's getting highly ranked up there with T Law and Vince Young, who were two like tremendous college quarterbacks. Vince Young, of course, playing that won a Heisman. Did he? I'm pretty sure he
I'm pretty
did.
sure.
I mean, T Law never won a Heisman, but easily could have. If he didn't have to sit out in every second half. But yeah. So like, I think it kind of be a same situation in T Law. His freshman year, T Law sat the first handful of games, if you remember, and Kelly Bryant played, and Kelly Bryant was playing good. Clemson was undefeated, but at the end of the day, the coach is going to play the more talented player.
Oh, this is interesting. So Vince Young won the Heisman when Reggie Bush had it revoked.
Okay.
So kind of
At
an
the same time.
asterisk there.
Yeah, kind of an asterisk. And then they played in that Rose Bowl against each other.
I'm so excited to see Quinn Ewers to play. I think that this kid. I mean, listen, I haven't watched any tape on him or anything, but I just love the fact that he's just at the camp slinging it sidearm, the blonde mullet. I just love everything about this dude. I want to see this guy play so badly. You have
Mhm.
no idea. I will become an Ohio State fan if he starts. If he's starting day one, if he starts day one, I am fully committed, 100% fan of Ohio State. I'll put money on him to win the chip.
All right. Okay.
That's how much I believe in Quinn Ewers.
I mean, they got the roster.
And
They
dude, you
always
pair
do.
him up with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. They have that tight end too, Rucker. Like Quinn Ewers at the helm. Oh baby, that's an unstoppable offense.
I mean, they were unstoppable with Dwayne Haskins to a certain extent. So you had somebody with
Yeah,
them.
you're not setting the bar too high from an NFL perspective.
Yeah, but like you said it. you put in a guy that, he's been compared like, oh, this is like another Patrick Mahomes, I mean, it takes, first of all, you got to know you're pretty damn good if you're like, screw my senior year of high school. I'm just going to go play for one of the top four schools in the last 10 years. He's
Yeah.
always been in the top four. So, you definitely see him play next year, though. I'm telling you, at some point, it might not be week one, but after the first couple handful of games, Ryan Day is going to have a decision to make. They're going to be undefeated, and there's going to be no problem with the quarterback they got at home now. But he's going to be like, "Nah, screw this, dude. Give me the better guy."
All right, but we are from day one a Quinn Ewers podcast. We love you, Quinn Ewers. We're rooting for you. Let's talk about. We got one last topic up for the day, and this is a Steed topic as well. Steed, you want to talk about these guys? You want to talk about the Colts and what is going on in Indy with all
Yeah.
these injuries?
Yeah. Well, now with the news that came out today, or when this airs, 2 days ago. Well,
No, I
it
mean
came
yesterday.
it came out yesterday.
You really struggle with that one.
Dude, it's been a long day. Like it looked like we didn't know what the timeline was because they said 5 to 12 weeks on, Quentin Nelson, first of all, the best guard in the league, your centerpiece, like your most treasured piece on the O line that's literally helped you through the whole building process of this Colts team. And then of course Carson Wentz, where like you
the franchise quarterback you just traded for,
Yeah, you invested a lot saying like, okay, this is our guy to get us into the Super Bowl contender category, where we didn't know where they were, like if they were going to play or not, and if it was going to be a 12-week stint, like what do they do? Now it's looking like more like they could be ready for the opening of the season, which is really good, especially for Jonathan Taylor. As a fantasy owner of him, that he's going to have Quentin Nelson. But also good for the Eagles too, because there was part of that draft pick becoming a first round pick for the Eagles is depending on how many games that Carson Wentz plays.
Yeah, but doesn't it screw them over that if he doesn't play enough,
Yeah, I know
that they don't get the first?
Yeah,
So
if he
it'd be
doesn't
bad for the
play,
Eagles.
yeah, it could be like it.
It'd
That's
be
what
good for the Colts.
I went in saying like, the Eagles could have lost that trade after all, but now with the report saying that he's back at practice and not even having a boot on, that he's probably good to go.
Yeah, you might see them manage it just perfectly enough to where he's under.
I don't know. I think they saw
percentage.
Jacob Eason and Sam Ellinger take first team reps, and they were like, "Hey, yo, Carson, we need you to hop back in."
Oh yeah, well dude, are we expecting Jacob Eason to come out here and listen? He'll look great in gym shorts. That dude can throw the ball a country mile, and it'll be on target. The problem is that once you throw the pads on, you see why Jacob Eason wasn't drafted in the first 2 rounds.
I mean, Georgia fans would disagree with you, but yeah.
Dude, like, you're telling me that with Jacob Eason's arm talent, he shouldn't be a first round pick? The dude's like your prototypical quarterback. I mean, not modern quarterback. He's not like mobile necessarily, but the guy's got a freaking cannon. He probably has.
80 yards.
He's probably a top 15 arm in the league, and
Yeah.
he's one of the few of them that's like riding the bench.
I saw a video the other day this Colts fan made. He was like, he was talking about the Carson Wentz. He was like, at first I was like, okay, well, now we get to see what Jacob Eason has. And he shows this one highlight of Jacob Eason like dropping back, and he's like reacting to it. And Jacob Eason just throws a pick to like the D lineman. He's like, oh, hell nah.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to see for Sam Ellinger if he was able to take the spot because he was the kind.
I think he could have.
I think it was it was on the Dynasty Pod that I was saying because we were talking about the Colts offense and the backup quarterback scenario just in case Wentz pulls another Wentz or whatever. Who the backup to own was, and I was saying it's to me at least Sam Ellinger because basically what I said before with Jacob Eason. There's a reason for concern when you have a top arm in the league and have not been treated like a top value player.
I would lean Sam Ellinger too, just based off like I
He's a
think he's.
game.
Yeah, I was about to say, literally, he is a gamer. This is the reason why Texas was like quote unquote back for the last 3 years that
Dude,
he
you see,
played.
he was going toe to toe with Joe Burrow that one week, LSU Texas. I think it was week one. I mean, they were kind of having a little shootout there, and obviously Sam Ellinger, what's holding him back is the exact opposite of Jacob Eason. He just doesn't have that elite or even average to me level arm talent for the NFL.
Hmm.
He's not the kind of dude that can have all this wacky footwork beyond the run and just sling it 50 yards across his body off his back foot like some of these other quarterbacks have been able to do, which is just remarkable to think about. But yeah, like he's going to be able to run, which we've seen some backup quarterbacks have some success, not necessarily consistent, but be able to make something happen. And I mean, he's pretty instinctual. It's nothing perfect, but I think that he's a dude as a backup quarterback. If you're asking, hey, you get subbed in midway through the second quarter, you just need to hang on and win this game. Like, give me Sam Ellinger 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I think he'd do a way better job than Jacob Eason at that, especially like with the Colts already having a really good defense and having an established run game.
Yeah,
You know,
just
he,
manage.
yeah, he would be my guy to manage a game. I
Yeah,
think,
just manage the game and make that one or two plays that can win us it. That's all you need from Sam Ellinger in
and
that
the good
situation.
thing, like he can run, so he doesn't have to. If it's like 3rd and 5, he doesn't have to make that little 8 yard slant. He can just take off and
Well,
slide for
dude,
the
look
first
at what
down.
the Bengals did against the Steelers late in the season, where Ryan Finley. I mean, Ryan Finley's
Goat.
not a great quarterback. Um, he's a backup. He's a roster bubble kind of quarterback. But they were able to, because he could run, catch the Steelers off guard, because the Steelers like to have those ends crash a whole lot and be able to pick up a ton of yards with the quarterback running. And then their defense, obviously for that to work, you need your defense to play well, and the Bengals defense is really why they won that game. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's going to be weird to see what happened with the Colts. You took their over though, so are you still
Did
confident
I?
in that? Yeah, I think so. I think you took the Colts over.
I think I took the under. I think the only team I took the over for in that division were the
Oh, you
Jags.
might have been a double under.
Yeah, I
I don't.
think
I don't
I'm
remember.
I'm leaning more over on the Titans now, especially after that news. But I mean, I might be wrong. I might have taken the over. But like because now that it looks good for those two players coming back, I was kind of like, do they trade for someone? Because there was a lot of talks about Nick. Like people were like, they should go out there and get Nick Foles, and I was gonna kind of talk about how Carson Wentz is probably just like, dude, do not bring that dude over here again.
Dude, there's one thing that the Colts don't do, and simultaneously they do this well because of it. They just don't want to make bad financial decisions.
Hmm.
Ballard is not the type of dude that's going to go out there and trade for a quarterback who arguably has the worst contract in the league.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's
bad.
just not paying a backup quarterback $35 million and
Hmm.
having that on the books. He'd much rather do what he did. You sign Brett Hundley, you have a couple of guys battle it out, and you say, Carson Wentz, listen, you're supposed to miss 5 to 12 weeks. You got to make that 5 weeks.
I think he will, and especially for someone like Carson Wentz, who already has kind of a monkey on his back, you could say. Uh, People are betting against him, and this being a new spot for him, especially like I find like the Colts being the destination where you can kind of go under the radar and not be like and not have to deal with fans like you do with Philly.
Yeah.
Where he definitely wants a shot at this, and that he's not going to let this. If he's ready to go, he's going to play. And same
Well,
thing with
you
Quentin
also
Nelson.
have like a coaching. Not that Doug Peterson didn't believe in Carson Wentz. It's just you kind of have it now again with Frank Reich. Frank Reich was his guy, right? Like
Hmm.
that was his guy. And now you bring that back together in a situation where you don't have a clown fiesta of an offense around him, with an offensive line and running backs that were the worst in pass protection I think I've ever seen while doing a film analysis by a large margin.
Hmm.
Um, I think that the Colts are still going to be a successful team, and be all right. The problem is that all right means you miss the playoffs. We saw it with the Dolphins last year. You go 10-6 in a competitive AFC, even with an extra wild card spot, you miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to beat out the Titans? Are they going to be on that level with the Titans, who seem to be the front runner in the division right now? And are they going to be able to, if they're not on that Titans level and don't win the division, be able to compete? I mean, you got two teams in the AFC North that are probably going to be in the running for 2 wild card spots, and then two other divisions. So a lot of mouths to feed in the AFC right now.
Yeah, and they need those two guys to be, where it looks like in the AFC, if everything takes place like it did last season, where you're going to need these guys healthy. Because, I mean, let's say they do miss the first couple weeks. I mean, you got to face Russell Wilson and the Seahawks game one, the loaded Rams with Matthew Stafford in game two.
Oh, they got to play that division. That's rough.
And then you got to play the Titans week 3. I mean, that's tough. Another playoff fringe team and the Dolphins. Then you got to play the Ravens.
Jesus Christ, that schedule. Those first 5 weeks are brutal.
You need those two guys. And no disrespect to Sam Ellinger or someone like that, but if Ellinger were someone,
it's no disrespect, but yeah, go ahead and play those 5 fucking teams. Jesus Christ.
I mean, first three weeks, you're playing 3 top 10 quarterbacks. I mean, that's who you're going up against.
Top 10 teams. Not even just top 10 quarterbacks, they're probably top 10 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the Seahawks, but yeah, Russell Wilson. Like, geez. And you're playing the Seahawks early in the season, which is always like the tougher Seahawks.
I mean, yeah, they'll look like the Super Bowl champion in that first week. Russell will throw for 5 touchdowns, and the defense won't allow 400 yards through the air.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be all from us here. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you're on the YouTube, hit us with that subscribe. We really appreciate it. If you're on the Twitch, hit us with a follow. We would also really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.